Ahlam Shibli, Lost Time. This is, I think, is a retrospective of her exhibitions and projects she's done in Palestine. This actually looks like the back cover and this looks like the front cover, and it confused me a little bit, but this is the front cover. And it's a total of about 80 pages. Ikon Gallery, and it's called Lost Time. So I think it's a retrospective of her work at the Ikon Gallery. Let's have a little look through it. Had this book for a while. Again, I'm not really sure where I got it. I've had it for a number of years. Let's have a look through it and we can make sense of it. And I'll tell you a little bit more about Ahlam. She is, or she describes herself as an Arab Israeli. She is a Palestinian who lives in Israel, and her work is about, she documents the land in Palestine, in northern Galilee. I think Nodura or somewhere in that with that name. I think it's Nodura. She documents Palestinians and villages and the environment with an obvious undercurrent of Israeli rule. So she's looking at the juxtaposition of Palestinians and their life under Israel. Very controversial, very interesting. It's great to offer something like this as a perspective, as a neutral, and just making sense and giving you just an insight into her work a little bit. So let's have a little look through it. So Lost Time, Ahlam Shibli, and there's a foreword by Jonathan Watkins, the director, and there's the contents page, which is foreword Jonathan Watkins, Nomadic Discretion by John Berger, self-portrait, Gota, and then there's Cassandra and the Photography of the Invisible, Unrecognized, and then a biography. That's a nomadic. This is John Berger. The meaning of the verb hide changes a great deal according to the situation and context it is used. The act of hiding can be reassuring or dangerous, heroic or cowardly, natural or exceptional. For those who exercise power and are accustomed to doing so, to hide something or somebody is usually an illicit subversive act. For those without power, hiding is an act of survival and a way of waiting for things to change. Now, I'm not going to read all of that, but I get the gist of it is the actual focus of Ahlam's work. So, self-portrait, and this is a sequence of shots, obviously looking through a heavy grass area. And because I don't know much about her work, I couldn't give you much of an in-depth insight into her work either. And I guess we all know the context of which it's situated, and that I guess this is a bit more of a ramblings of childhood, maybe, of her looking through her own eyes at how she rambled through this countryside as a child. And I'm not sure the quality of the camera. There's quite a lot of lack of depth of field, and maybe it's under that artistic tone where it doesn't matter if things are out of focus, it's all about context, visual narrative, and the message. That is quite sharp though, but this is very much out. It feels like it's almost done on a little snap, disposable, maybe, yeah, like a little cheap camera. It has that feeling to it, but that's not a bad thing. I didn't see an introduction to any of this, so I'm unsure to what it's about. Some interesting stuff, you know, like the journey and symbolising that, maybe that innocence of youth, of just not taking much notice of what is going on around, and using just the landscape as an adventure ground, you know. Gotha, now this is what I know a little bit about Gotha, is that landscapes, towns, and interiors and all sorts of look at the daily life of this landscape, and as I said before, how it is influencing, or how it's influenced by the Israelis, and how their worlds collide and connect together. This is Mitnan. Is that a soldier there? It's all quite bleak, isn't it? There is stuff on the other side, but I think Tal al-Sabaz. There is work on the other side, like I said, but I think if you want to investigate this a little bit more, it's still available on Amazon. It's not that expensive. I mean, they almost look like barracks, and almost a sort of sense of desertion with all of this as well. And it feels quite deserted and quite empty, and I haven't read the text. Oh, look at this. That's amazing. Let's have a little look at the text and see what the text is saying. Let's get an extract out of that. Gotha is a word foreign to the Arabic language, a word that is extraneous to the Bedouin idiom that Ahlam Shibli was brought up with in Galilee. In the village of Arab al-Shibli, it is a term, however, commonly used by the Bedouin in the Negev when asking someone to go somewhere. According to local people, it originates from the command, go there. Okay. All right, so the Bedouin, it comes from the Bedouin moving from one place to another. Go to this. Okay, maybe I'm just hearing it phonetically. So maybe it is that emptiness is what, and the abstractness is what she's trying to sort of convey with this. That's quite interesting. And some colour now. And you've got the community there with the black and white. And then some nice colour stuff. Interesting. Now this is Cassandra and the photography of the invisible. Time present and time past on both, perhaps present in time future, and time future contained in time past. T.S. Eliot, 4 quarters. And Susan Sontag, people robbed of their past seem to make the most fervent picture takers. I really understand that. Susan Sontag. Well, let's have a look at, there's a lot of narrative in this, and let's have a look at it. Photography, photographing lived in space, inside, outside, the margins of the centre, in between spaces, indoor spaces. Now this is a sort of, I think it looks like a critical analysis really, and I'm not really sure who's done it. Let me just go back. Is it Susan Sontag? Don't think so. Who is providing? Oh, Kamal Bulata. So I guess this is some insight into the Bedouin, insight into there's anything on the back, and then insight into Ahlam's work. Well, let's just finish it off. It's a lot going on here, and I may not be justifying it properly. This is unrecognised. This is the cover. I'll lift it up a little bit. So this is unrecognised. Again, there's a strong underlying narrative within this. And then, interesting. It seems to be sort of like an innocence of, there's a lot of children involved with this, and I would like to know why she's using a lot of children, and maybe it's thinking about her past and using the feeling of her past into the future, and it's an interesting concept, and I think it's all okay. I think it's a very contentious subject matter, and we all have different ways of doing it and looking at it. I'd like to know more about how she takes her pictures and what she takes them on. I like that, the sort of representation of home behind the lady. And this is the Bedouin sort of tribes people as well. And you know, what's interesting is this is not about their journey, it's about where they are. And that is an interesting concept. And that's the sort of same shot there, and that's a sort of two shots, but it feels like it's one shot. Inside to the homes. Yeah. Well, it was an insight. There's a bit about her exhibitions at the Ikon Gallery, 23rd September, 9th of November 2003, curated by Jonathan Watkins, assisted by Karen Allen. So I did the Billingham insight, which was also at the Ikon Gallery. This is just an insight, just a way of me opening up a book and letting you see what's inside. I'm not trying to say or preach anything with it. Maybe now you can see it and make up your own mind if you want to investigate it, because I tell you, I only touched on what was in there very briefly, very quickly. Anyway, thank you.